Well, hello, boys and girls. I hope you're having a fantastic day today. Welcome to Assembly. So sorry that I cannot be here with you in person today. But hey, I'm up on the screen, but I'm also here and that's the screen. That's weird. Let's not go there again. Now, do you recall when older people, any adult in your life, says this statement? When I was younger, or back in my day, I wonder, have you heard those kind of statements before? You know, maybe for some of you, you hear it a lot. Maybe it's a parent or a grandparent or an older friend who says, when I was your age, or back in my day, or when I was younger. So sorry, but I'm going to have one of those moments today. So please forgive me, but my story about my past kind of factors into what we're going to be talking today about. Now, back in my day, when I was at school, I was the athletic champion. In junior school, middle school, and secondary school, I was the house captain. Now, the house and the team that I was on was the yellow team. That's right, yellow team. We were actually called a few different things over my entire schooling. First of all, we were Jupiter, and then we were Moorabool, and then the Livingstone Lions, or just the Lions. But nevertheless, I was the captain and I was the champion of the yellow team. Now, just in case if some of you, don't believe me, because I'm assuming some of you have seen me out in the basketball court, out on the soccer field, and you've gone, Mr. Baird, an athletic champion? Mr. Baird, a sports champion? The guy can't even jump. He can hardly move. All he does is complain that he's too unfit. Yeah, that's true, but you just wait until you're almost 30 years old, okay? But anyway, let's pause. I'm going to show you some proof that I was, at one point in my life, a decent athlete. Okay, so that was it, a bit of proof. But what I'm trying to get at today wasn't that I was an athletic champion, but I was the house leader of the yellow team. We were a pretty successful team. I used to wear the yellow face paint, I would wear a yellow singlet, and I would cheer for the yellow team. Fast forward to just last year, okay? We can put that past behind me. That's not me anymore. I can't do that anymore, not that fast. But anyway, I got to Heathdale Christian College. They employed me as the pastoral care chaplain, a student supporter. One of the leaders came up to me, one of the teachers, one of the leaders. They said, hey Dave, or Mr. Baird, we have houses here. Which house would you like to be in? You can choose. I said, do you have a yellow house, a yellow team? And they said, oh yeah, we got a yellow team. I said, yep, put my hand up. I'm going to be in the yellow team. They went, yep, cool, no doubt. That team's called Carey. See you later. So I go back to my office and I start my career here as a chaplain. And over a few weeks, I am reading up about some of the houses and who they're named after. And one name in particular caught my eye and caught my attention, and that was Judson. Now, I'd just been hearing a lot about Judson in my personal life. Someone very special to me was reading a book on Judson's life. And he became a bit of a hero to mine because Adoniram Judson actually witnessed to and was a missionary to where my wife was born, where she was from, and the language, which isn't English, that she speaks. So he became a bit of a hero of mine. And my wife, she was reading a book, and it was all about Adoniram Judson. And I go, I think I want to be on his team. But I don't like blue, because when I was back in school, blue were our arch enemies. So what I did is I walked back to the primary school office, I knocked on this teacher's door, and I said, hey, I would actually like to be on the blue team, because Adoniram Judson means a lot to my wife and means a lot to me. So I did the unthinkable. I changed from yellow to blue. If you're in Carey, I'm sorry, but hey, Judson, you've got me on your team now. So let's talk a little bit about Judson. Let's give a very quick overview of his life, why he was important, and then we're going to go into why he's important to me. Okay, so a little bit of information about Judson's life. This is going to be a very quick overview of him. If you would like to know a little bit more in detail, There's some information on the Heathdale Christian College website, or you can come up to me and ask. But basically, he was born in America a few hundred years ago. Adoniram, that's his name. It's not a very popular name we use now. It's not like, Kobe or Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi. Adoniram, pretty simple name. It's actually a biblical name. But he was born in America, and he didn't really sort of grow up as a Christian. In fact, he kind of was the opposite. But eventually he came back to God, or he became a Christian, and he said, I want to tell people about the God of the Bible. I want to share this news with someone. So him and his wife got on a boat, sailed across the seas to India. Now, to do this voyage was very dangerous back in those days. They couldn't just jump on a plane and fly over there in a few hours. But anyway, for those whose families are from India or have an Indian heritage, Adoniram Judson went to India. But there were some issues there with the British at that time, and they didn't feel quite safe there. So whilst they were going to tell the Indian people about Jesus and his love for us and how he sacrificed himself for us, they went to the next door country, Burma, or what we call today Myanmar. Now, even though it's called Myanmar, I'm going to be calling it Burma, okay? Just so we're not going between two different names. So Judson and his wife went to Burma, and they spent 18 years trying to tell people about the God of the Bible, and they didn't make many converts. Not many people were on their team. They didn't see eye to eye. But what Judson did in that time, he was able to write a book of the Bible and then the whole Bible in the Burmese language. That's what he spent his time doing. And slowly, bit by bit, people would read this and they would come to know the God who created the heavens and the earth. But the Burmese people, they weren't as receptive to Adoniram Judson's message. So he travelled a little bit further in the country of Burma, and he met a people group, a tribe in this area we call Burma. So they've got different tribes. He met a tribe called the Karen people. Now, these Karen people were far more receptive to Judson's message about God and how he's come to save all of us. Now, it's at this point where I'm going to press pause. And I'm going to introduce someone very special to me. It's actually my wife. And my wife is a Karen person. She comes from this tribe in Burma who they can trace their religion and their conversion to Christianity back to him, that's Adoniram Judson, and some people that worked with Adoniram Judson. So I'm going to quickly whiz home, and you're going to see a video of my wife. Her name is Sar. So let's go. Okay, now that I'm back home, I would love to introduce you to my wife, Sar. Now, Sar comes from Burma and is a part of the Karen tribe, and she's going to answer some of our questions today. So, Sar, I was wondering if you can tell us about the Karen people. We're actually wearing some of their national cultural dress at the moment, but I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the Karen people and who they are.
Yep. So the Karen people, the majority of them live in the eastern part of Burma. There's about 7 million of us. Because of the civil war in Burma, a lot of Karen people are now living all over the world, including Australia, USA, Canada, Norway, and other countries. And Thailand, of course. A lot of them live in Thailand because we were persecuted and chased out of the country. The Karen people are also one of the biggest Christian group in Burma.
Thanks for sharing that, Sar. You know, I didn't actually know there were 7 million Karen people. That's a pretty big tribe. And like Sar said, a lot of them are displaced. They don't actually live in Burma anymore because they've been literally chased out of the country. So the reason why Sar and her family and some of the other people in her community are in Australia is because I guess our Australian government allowed some of the refugees in from these refugee camps in Thailand. But that's enough from me. Sar, I was wondering if you can tell me who Adoniram Judson is to the Karen people.
Yes. So Adoniram Judson is one of the first missionary to the Burma. He spent 40 years evangelizing to the people in Burma, including the Karen people. He translated a full Bible in the Burmese language, and also did a dictionary, English and Burmese dictionary. The Karen, Judson and his friends are a very important people to the Karen people, because when we trace back our identity as Karen Christian, we trace it back to him. So we're grateful for him and his friends, and even now we celebrate them, his day. Once a year we celebrate Judson and his friends' day, just remembering those early missionary and all that they have done for the people in Burma, or the Christian in Burma.
So, Sar, if I'm hearing you correctly, and like I spoke about just before when I was back at the college, Judson left a comfortable life in America. He travelled across the vast ocean to tell people about God. He left his comfortable life and the safety of his own country to speak to people. He didn't even know their language. You know, why would a person do that? What is it about the Christian faith that inspires people to leave everything they have to go tell people about God? You know, I think that's called a legacy. Judson didn't care about the comfortable things in life. He wanted to tell people about God, and that's special. So, Sar, one of my final questions is, what has been Adoniram Judson's legacy to the Karen people? Have they always believed in God? Or, you know, can you tell us about that?
Well, they've always worshipped something, but they've not always believed in the true God. And well, his legacy is that today there's a lot of Christian in Burma, but specifically in the Karen, within the Karen community. There's still Christian, there's people who believe and continue on what he started, and growing. And people are remembering him and still are grateful to him. And those are some of his legacy, but also some of the book and the thing that he has written. Like I say, a complete translation of the Burmese Bible, the dictionary, and some other thing. These are all his legacy that are still being used today.
You know what, when I was doing a little bit more research about Judson boys and girls, like Sar said, he spent roughly 40 years in the country, and to be honest, during those 40 years it wasn't super successful. He spent a long time speaking to the Burmese without much advancement, and even when he went to the Karen, not everyone believed, but a lot did. And eventually, when Adoniram Judson went back to America, because his second wife actually passed away, he ended up dying as well. There wasn't a huge celebration after his death. But over the years that have gone past, the flow-on effect of his obedience to God being a missionary has developed much fruit. You see, now there are millions of people in Burma, including a lot of the Karen people that are now Christians. You know, he's left an amazing legacy. Sar, I've got one more question. You're currently writing a Christian children's book in the Karen language. Why are you writing a Christian book in the Karen language for children?
Yes. Well, even today, even though a lot of Karen people are Christian, the Christian material in Karen language is very limited, and I have not seen any Christian children's book growing up. So it's always be something that I wanted to do, be inspired by people like Judson and his friends. I want to share the gospel with children through a book.
So, Sar, when I was growing up and when I was in primary school and in kinder, there were so many books for me to read. I remember reading Roald Dahl books, Enid Blyton books. There was always books around me. Do children in Burma have books?
I can't speak for all children in Burma, but I can speak for most Korean people, like myself. I do not remember having any children's book apart from a textbook. I do not have any book at all. And those textbooks were so precious.
So, Sar, like we've said, she's actually writing a Christian children's book in Korean, and she's actually getting help by one of our teachers here at Heathdale Christian College. Mrs. McDougall, she's actually helping Sar write and produce and publish her book. So, Sar, I was wondering if you would like to tell the students how they can assist and help you as you do this.
Yes, so we are raising support to people who can support us through prayer and financially as well, as we want to print this book and then distribute it to the children in Burma and Thailand. So one of the way they can help us is connect us with churches so that we can go and present what this project is all about, so that we can partner with churches.
Well, thank you, Sar, so much for joining me today. It's not often that you're on the videos with the kids. But hey, boys and girls, thank you so much for listening to the Assembly Talk today. I think it's really important, if we're going to take away anything from this discussion, I think it's that Adoniram Judson truly believed in God, and his whole life reflected that belief. He spent many years in jungles and in a place that he didn't know the language, just to tell people about God's love for the world. You know what? As we finish today, I'd love you to know that God loves you. God cares for you, and God has come to encourage you and save you and change you. That's pretty good, and I think we can leave it at there for today. See you around. Bye.